Children, how are you all? I hope you are all keeping fine, safely, and healthy. Today, I welcome you all back to your 10th standard English class. We are going to start the second part of the third lesson, that is, Gentlemen of Rio and Medio. All of you, look at your textbook. We'll start from the fifth para. The old man hung his head for a moment in thought. Then he stood up and stared at me. Friend, he said, I do not like to have you speak to me in that manner. I kept still and let him have his say. I know these Americans are good people, and that is why I have agreed to sell to them, but I do not care to be insulted. I have agreed to sell my house and land for $1,200, and that is the price. Look at the first line. The old man hung his head for a moment in thought. Then he stood up and stared at me. The old man was very polite, and he hung. Observe the word hung there. Hung means he bent his head for a moment in thought. For a short while, he was thinking, bending his head. Then he stood up and stared at me. Observe the word stared. It means to look fixedly with a lot of concentration. Here, who is staring? The old man is staring at the storyteller. When he came to know that the storyteller is offering more money, the old man felt somewhat insulted, so that he is staring at the storyteller. Friend, he said, I do not like to have you speak to me in that manner. So here, the old man addressed the storyteller as friend. I do not like the way you spoke to me. I did not like the manner that you have spoken to me. Okay. Look at the next line. I kept still and let him have his say. Here the storyteller was surprised because he said, I did not like the way. The storyteller kept quiet without speaking and allowed the old man to finish his saying. I know these Americans are good people, and that is why I have agreed to sell to them, but I do not care to be insulted. I know these Americans are very good and decent people, and that is why I have agreed to sell my land to them. I have agreed to sell my house to these Americans. But I do not want to be insulted. Means, here the old man feels insulted by taking the double amount what he had agreed upon. Look at the next line. I have agreed to sell my house and land for $1,200, and that is the price. See here how what kind of man Don Anselmo was. Before he agreed to sell his land and house only for $1,200, Now he stuck to his words and there is no change in it. Look at the reaction of the old man. I agreed only for $1,200. I do not want extra money for the additional land. In fact, we may think how foolish he was because if we were him, if we were Don Anselmo, we would have not missed the chance of getting extra money. Here, the point is not the question of money, but the question of honesty, truthfulness. Don Anselmo maintained that honesty. He had maintained that truth. Look at the sixth para. I argued with him, but it was useless. Finally, he signed the deed and took the money, but refused to take more than the amount agreed upon. Then he shook hands all around, put on his ragged gloves, took his stick, and walked out with the boy behind him. Look at the first line. I argued with him, but it was useless. Who argued here? The lawyer, the storyteller, argued with the old man. He tried to convince him. See, Don Anselmo, you are owning more land. You are the owner of the land that is more than 8 acres. For the additional land only, we are giving the extra money. You must take it. You have to receive the money. But it has become very useless. The old man was very stubborn. He was not at all ready to accept. So it was useless. Finally, he signed the deed and took the money, but refused to take more than the amount agreed upon. So he signed the deed. Underline that word deed. Deed means an agreement, a sale agreement. Because when you buy or sell any property, agreement has to be made. Both the parties, the one who sells and the one who buys, have to duly undersign on the government registered stamp paper, and that is the document, and that is the agreement, and that is the bond. It is done officially. So here also the old man signed the agreement and refused to take more money what he had agreed upon. Look at the next line. Then he shook hands all around, put on his ragged gloves, took his stick, and walked out with the boy behind him. Afterward, he shook hands. Shook is past tense of shake. He had given handshake to all those people who were there in the office, and he put on his ragged gloves. Underline that word ragged means torn. The gloves are old one. Therefore, it has torn. Torn is the past form of tear. And took his stick, which is the worn out umbrella, and walked out with the boy from the office. Look at the seventh para. A month later, my friends had moved into Rio in Medio. They had replastered the old house, pruned the trees, patched the fence, and moved in summer. One day they came back to the office to complain. The children of the village were overrunning their property. They came every day and played under the trees, built little play fences around them, and took blossoms. When they were spoken to, they only laughed and talked back good naturedly in Spanish. Look at the first line. A month later, my friends had moved into Rio in Medio. So the author himself is a storyteller and he is telling directly to the readers. Here, my friends, my refers to the storyteller, friends to Americans, right? So the storyteller is telling after 1 month, those Americans they moved to their new house which they had bought in Rio in Medio. They had replastered the old house, pruned the trees, patched the fence, and moved in summer. So before going to the new house, we also make some alterations according to our likeness. We renovate the house, we make some changes. Likely to that, Americans first replastered the house. Underline that word replastered. It means to plaster. Just to remove the facing of the wall, then plastering. Prune the trees. The first para, we came to know Don Anselmo's orchard was narrowed. In his orchard, we could find large number of trees, but those trees are having a lot of branches which have grown very awkwardly. So here, Americans, they prune the trees. Underline that word pruned. It means to cut off some branches of a trees to make it grow better, so as to allow the branches to grow beautifully. Patched the fence. Fence, a compound around the property. The fence, somewhat it was damaged and they repaired it, and finally they moved in summer. They took nearly 1 month to renovate the house. One day they came back to the office to complain. One day the Americans came to the storyteller's office to complain. They are having a complaint regarding what? Regarding their new property. The storyteller is the mediator between Don Anselmo and the Americans. So they came to him to complain regarding their property. The children of the village were overrunning their property. They came every day and played under the trees, built little play fences around them, and took blossoms. This is what they complained. What was their complaint? So the Americans were disturbed by the children of that village, that is Rio and Medio. Those children used to come to the orchard every day. Whose orchard was it? It belonged to Americans. And the children overrun. Observe the word overrun. It means to occupy the place without permission. The children came every day to the orchard without permission. They played under the trees, shouted. They used to build little play fences and played. and took blossoms. Means they used to pluck the flowers and buds. Thus, completely they are all disturbing the Americans. When they were spoken to, they only laughed and talked back good naturedly in Spanish. When the Americans told the children not to do so, when the children were advised by the Americans not to do so, the children simply laughed and talked back to the Americans. Good naturedly in Spanish. The children had a good manners, so they spoke in Spanish. Look at the eighth para. I sent a messenger up to the mountains for Don Anselmo. It took a week to arrange another meeting. Finally, the storyteller came to know about the complaint, and afterwards he wanted to arrange another meeting with Don Anselmo so that he could tell about this and take a serious action regarding that. So, what did he do? He sent a messenger. Observe the word messenger. Messenger means a person who carries a message. So, he sent a person up to the mountain to inform Don Anselmo that a meeting had been arranged with storyteller. It took a week to arrange another meeting. It took nearly a week. This line shows that Don Anselmo was really unhurried because we came to know that in the first paragraph he was generally slow in work, slow in each and every work. It shows that the storyteller is telling it took nearly 1 week to arrange meeting with Don Anselmo as he was very slow in everything. When he arrived, he repeated his previous preliminary performance. The old man arrived to the storyteller's office one fine day. Again, he repeated his previous preliminary performance. The first meeting, how he performed previous preliminary performance. Observe the word preliminary. Preliminary means done or said first to prepare something. So he has done some actions in the first meeting when he entered that office room. He greeted everyone, right? And afterwards, he removed his coat, removed his hat, removed his gloves, and handed over to that boy who followed him. So, the same action he is repeating in the second meeting also. Look at the next line. He wore the same faded cutaway, carried the same stick, and was accompanied by the boy again. What he wore was, he wore the same faded cutaway. Observe the word cut away there. It means a coat, and it has become very old, and it was in green in color, and it is faded. Faded means it lost its color, it has lost its brightness. He came to the storyteller's office by wearing the same faded coat, and he carried the same stick, that same cane, and he was accompanied by the boy again. Who is that boy? He is one of his innumerable kins, one of his relatives, a dark young boy, having the eyes like gazelle. The same boy accompanied the old man. He shook hands all around, sat down with the boy behind his chair, and talked about the weather. And he shook hands all around means he gave handshake to all the Americans along with the storyteller. And again to sat down in the office and talked about the weather. He wanted to be comfortable before entering into the discussion, so that he talked about the weather. Yes, students, I stopped the second part of the lesson here. The rest of the lesson I continue from the last part. Now take down your home assignment. What was the reaction of the old man to the storyteller's offer? Second is, from the list given below, tick the activities in which the children of Rio and Medio were involved after the Americans occupied the house and the land sold by Don Anselmo. Pruning the trees, renovating the house, playing in the orchard, speaking harsh words to the Americans in Spanish, plucking flowers from the trees, putting fences around their play area, laughing whenever they were spoken to, running around the land. Thank you.